everyone, and welcome. I hope you've been enjoying day 2 of Scaling Up. We've had a great sessions and panels, and now I'm excited to introduce you to our next one. Today we are welcoming CallRail, one of Cardinal's longtime partners. I think our partnership goes back almost 10 years since the start of the agency, maybe longer. And they're also based in Atlanta, so it's really great to have them as a sponsor at Scaling Up and for them to join this session and share a little bit more about call tracking and how they are leveraging AI for healthcare practices. So you've heard a lot throughout the sessions about how you need data and how you can use those to optimize your campaigns, and they're going to share a little bit about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Jason, and they're going to kick this off. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Welcome, everybody. My name is Chris Nelson. I am the senior manager here at vertical marketing here at CallRail. Jason Tatum is joining us also. Jason, you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, I am Jason Tatum. I'm the vice president of product here at CallRail. I've been here for 8 years now, and I am not the basketball player. And if you came here because you saw Jason Tatum, thought the basketball player was presenting, I am very, very sorry, but I'm no good at basketball.
I'm not much better, if better at all. So I appreciate you joining. We're here. What we want to talk about is just the patient experience and how you get from that first touch point to actual conversion of the lead to a patient. And so what we're both with CallRail, and CallRail is an AI powered lead intelligence platform. And our whole goal is to make it easy for your business to take the leads that you receive and turn them into better customers. That's what we're here for. We've been in business since 2011. We provide services to more than 200,000 businesses, proven track record, top rated on G2. So that's the platform that we're involved with. More than 1 billion calls go through CallRail's network on a yearly basis. And more than 200,000 businesses, not only healthcare providers, not only law firms, home services contractors. We have 7,000 or more marketing agencies that work with us. So there's a whole lot of marketing that is happening within the CallRail framework. What we want to talk about today, though, is phone calls. Phone calls are the basis of you getting from just that initial call to the customer. And when we're looking at phone calls, one of the things we want to do as it relates to this conference is that healthcare is unique. It's like certain industries and unlike other industries. And one of the things that it makes it unique is just that there's a large number of leads that are coming from phone calls as opposed to other ways to get in contact with your business. And so, this is especially true when you're looking at things where it's a large value transaction, something that might be high stakes, something that might be very important to your life, like healthcare. It's where consumers, they just prefer to call over any other type of contact that you might get.
There's something psychological in that too that's interesting. Like, on the other end of the phone, the person that's talking to you is typing things into a system of some sort, but there's something about me not wanting to enter my own medical information into a form or a chat bot. Just makes me a little uneasy. And so for me personally, and most people I know, picking up the phone is just a more direct, comfortable, more nuanced way to translate something that's potentially sensitive.
Right, and you take in just like healthcare specific issues where you've got the conditions, the illnesses, the diseases that you might be dealing with, and just how unique they are and how much language relates to those. It just makes it, I think, easier on a phone call.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got all these calls that are coming into a healthcare provider, and we've thought about calls in the past in a certain way, right? We've thought about them as just inefficient in how they're handled, inefficient in how you get information from you, the caller, to the recipient of that call. certainly time consuming, where you've had situations where the call might take 10, 15 minutes, even a whole time, where you're dealing with calls in that way. People haven't really been able to keep track of them easily. And because they can't keep track of them easily, you really have a situation where you can't analyze what's in those calls. If just past experience, not at CallRail, but a previous position in customer service, where I was managing the customer service team, it is very, very difficult to understand what is going on between your business and your potential customers without that kind of framework. It's just very, very difficult for you to do that. But at that same time, like Jason was saying, calls are a huge source of intelligence. They provide information and they have a amount of context to them that you just don't get in chats. You don't get it in forums. You don't get it in text messages. I mean, if you look here, you're talking about an average word per session of almost 705. That's 10 times what you're getting from any other way that you are being contacted as a business.
But if you think about it too, it's just easier for us to talk, right? And then the most in things that have the most nuance, require more words sometimes, or it feels like they require more words. And I have a 5-year-old, and she knows an amazing amount of words. Her vocabulary is massive. She cannot read or write any of those words other than her own name. She's working on it. We're practicing, but the ability to sort of convey what's pertinent through voice is just like a factor of human nature, and it's not one that's easily supplanted. If you look at if you look at like just today, like once Alexa and Google Home became prevalent, it's just now standard to talk to your devices, and you talk to your computer as if it was a person in the room, because that's what's easier. And that's the same thing you see today with like things like ChatGPT voice. Like there's a reason why they go to that, because natural language is just that. It's natural, and so it's much easier to convey what you need to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to even way back in the sense that the spoken word came before the written word. And, humans just naturally gravitate towards speaking with other humans.
Exactly.
So, as you enter into that kind of framework where you've got phone calls versus other ways that you as a provider can be contacted, what we found is those inbound conversations that come on a phone call are absolutely a provider's best leads. They show high buying intent when you pick up the phone to call. You already have consent situations because they've consented to be a potential customer of yours. It's a much more efficient conversion path because you're actually on the phone with the person who's looking at who you are trying to convert into your patient. And then at the same time, you have that robust usage that you might not get in another situation. So I think what you've got is a situation where people gravitate towards speaking on the phone. And not only that, but as a provider, as a business, people are gravitating toward the people who most want your services are gravitating towards picking up the phone and contacting you. And that leaves you as a provider, if you understand and can gather all of that data, it leaves you in a situation where you can easily gain insights, generate intelligence that you otherwise wouldn't have to improve your marketing campaign and to really convert more patients. And so, here's where you've got a situation where not only can you convert more leads, you can improve the experience that your patients or prospective patients get. You can take the performance of your team that is answering these phone calls and communicating with those prospective patients. You can understand what they're doing. You can work with them, coach them so that they can do those things better. And then lastly, you can really take all of your marketing campaigns that you're running, all of the activities that you're doing to acquire new patients, and you can optimize them so that you can then make that so that you're producing more leads.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like software companies, there's data, there are insights, there are tools you can use to perform better. At the end of the day, you're optimizing to get more customers. You're optimizing to get more leads more efficiently so you get better high quality customers that come back and or patients, I should say, in the healthcare sector. And I think in the same way that you optimize and analyze and set goals around what types of things you want to have happen to get people to a site, to a form, to a landing page. In the same way that you set goals and set up elaborate metrics in GA4 or elsewhere to understand like how to optimize this experience digitally to produce higher results, there is no reason not to think of the conversations that happen after that are not also eligible for that optimization from that learning, from that kind of digging into how can these conversations perform better, and what things happen in my marketing, in my content, in my site experience that lead to leads that have the most highly converting conversations. And that's the thing that businesses and a lot of businesses just miss, is that they can't even imagine that it's possible to analyze and optimize your conversations to acquire more patients through like what actually happened on the phone. And that's the thing to when you grapple with that and realize that there's this huge untapped potential on the call in aggregate, then you have something really special.
Yeah. I mean, and the reality is, because you're a healthcare marketer, you know that healthcare marketing is different. You still have to, as a healthcare marketer, acquire new customers. That you don't have a business without it. But you also are in a situation where you have laws and regulations that other industries just don't have. You have an environment that is much more uncertain. There's just many more factors that are in that environment. And when you couple that kind of uncertain environment, the challenges that are found, the changes that potentially could happen, with at the same time the high value of the services that are being provided, it just makes it a much more challenging environment for you to operate in as a marketer. I mean, you've got state privacy laws, you've got HIPAA, you've got whatever Health and Human Services is doing. You've got lawyers looking to file class action suits based off your data. You've got protected health information, where there's all sorts of different things that you could have in your healthcare marketing campaign that you might have acquired that may be protected health information that for some other type of marketing campaign, it's not going to be covered by a law. It's not going to deal with issues in the same way, confidentiality wise. So I think, you've got this phone call and how valuable the phone call is, but then it really moves healthcare into its own unique environment. When you add in all of the other regulations, all of the other laws, all of the other different aspects of what you need to do as a healthcare marketer. So the question to me is, what do you need to know? And how can you find some tools to help you to achieve what you have as a marketer? So we've got a couple of questions we wanted to ask, just in terms of how you as a provider are looking at your marketing, understand the various metrics with your marketing. So the first question is, do you know how many calls you're missing on a regular basis? And then we have a second question, which is, do you know do you have a follow-up process in place when you miss these calls? And then we have a third question, which is the poll question, which is, do you know your current conversion rate? All of those are questions that are vital to you as a provider. You have to be able to understand each and every one of those, because if you don't understand how many missed calls you have, you don't know how many opportunities you're missing. If you don't have a process to follow up on those missed calls, you are really just completely missing that opportunity. And then lastly, it's just an overall, hey, how many of the calls that are coming in are we actually converting? And so it looks like it's about half and half in terms of where we are with understanding our conversion rates. And, that's really it's a good segue into where we're going with this, because we want to talk about metrics that matter, right? Metrics that matter. And when you look at it, we've got a couple of metrics that are up here that are very important to your business. One is conversion rate. A second one is, what is the cost per lead that you have? A third one is your patient acquisition cost. And then the last one is really patient lifetime value. And all of those go to an understanding of what kind of return on investment you're getting for your marketing activities. So when we look at it, you've got situations where patient acquisition cost, it's the total cost that you have in acquiring a new patient. But to really understand how that relates to what you're doing as a provider, how successful, how profitable you are as a provider, you've got to mix that with not only that total cost, but also your patient lifetime value. So your patient lifetime value should be a much higher ratio than the total cost of acquiring that patient. And what we want to do at CallRail, and it's just give you an understanding of how you can use tools. There are tools that are out there, call tracking and AI now, where you can boost your efficiency, you can reduce your costs, and you can increase that ROI.
And added bonus, reduce your risk and liability with protected information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that, we just ran that poll in terms of, do you know how many calls you're missing? And we have more than basically 2/3 of the people that we have on this call are not knowing how many calls they're missing on a regular basis. So I think let's talk a little bit about these tools that we've got and how we can help with that. So, first and foremost out there is call tracking. Call tracking is a way for you to take whatever activity you're doing marketing wise and track the calls that are coming in. It can be done both with a source marketing activity, or it can get to the level of somebody coming into your website. And you are basically having an understanding of each individual visitor that you have to your website. They are being given a unique phone number, and then you can really track what is producing that type of lead to your provider.
Yeah. So for example, you get into the granularity of things like what are the specific Google Ads campaigns, keywords, ad groups, very specifically, that are driving my most efficient leads. You can get to that granularity there with Microsoft, with Meta, etc. Right? You're able to know exactly what was the refer that drove this to a site, and then what was the active page they were on when they made the phone call in the first place. And so you're talking about a much richer set of data in order to be really informed of not just what happens on your site, but the identity resolution of who they were when they did that on their site, and therefore what kind of lead did they turn out to be in the end. And that's really the key. The key link between the two is that identity resolution.
Yeah, and I think like down here, what you can get is a report that basically says what are the keywords that are producing those visitors to my website and then producing those phone calls, which I think gives you a granularity that you wouldn't get any other way. You can go beyond that though, just with call tracking and introduce automation rules, which allow you to automate different things in your processes in a little bit more efficient way. So, Jason, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah. So when I was talking about automation rule, or I was talking about a little bit of like site optimization earlier, we're going to be able to tell you, from a marketing effort standpoint, through just our technology, what exactly drove them to the site. But when I was talking about that, optimizing and understanding the conversation to drive higher quality leads and patients, automation rules is the actual tactical, tangible thing that enables that. Because what that allows you to do is to set up very specific criteria for our artificial intelligence to key in on, to include or exclude, and then to, while you're away, while you're not involved with anything, do all of the sorting and prioritizing and classification for you, so that with a clean data set, here's where these things were said, here's where these things weren't said, here's where appointment was booked, here's where it wasn't, things of that nature. And it all happens automatically, and it's specific and custom to your individual needs as a client.
That allows you to take the processes that your patient is experiencing and really put it both on your team's end in the most efficient way possible for your team, but also to make that experience for the patient much more seamless, much easier to use when they're working with you as a provider. You can take it to another level, though, when you've got all of this call data that's out there, and actually analyze the sentiments that you have in each individual phone call. You can see whether it was a positive sentiment. You can see whether it was a negative sentiment. You can see whether it was neutral. And it just gives you an idea. It gives you a way to see that sentiment for each and every phone call quickly, in a way that you can see reported easily to you, so that you don't have to dive through every phone call. You can just sit there and say, okay, everything that is negative, I see everything that's negative, and I can understand everything that happened in those calls. So that's another example of that deeper level of intelligence that you can get. If you take your flows that you have coming in as a call provider, there's something that you can add where you can understand how you want your flows to work, how those phone calls you want to have come into your business. So there's just more stuff that you can do efficiency wise, I think, here, to enable that to better work for the patient as they're calling in.
Yeah, and the thing that's incredible about this is, you might look at this and be like, cool, you have an IVR. My VoIP system has an IVR. Like, what's so impressive about this? This is really like built for not just connecting the conversation and the interaction, but is built for to enable and superpower the marketer, right? And so we actually have call flow steps that will direct the call, not just like on the time of day or holidays or like, oh, send it to this round robin, but we can direct the call based on what was the source. We can direct the call based on what was the landing page. If they called previously and they came from this refer, route it this way. And that might seem really granular, and in some cases it is, but I would argue that if you are paying, you're basically paying to acquire leads via paid media, then you may want to route those specific things to your best, to the best people to handle those things with a higher close rate. And so this kind of call flow enables that in ways that other tools don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about it being granular, but I mean, this is the granularity that I think you need to get at if you're really trying to optimize your patient experience as a provider.
Yeah.
This gives you a little bit more in depth in terms of, okay, going back to that missed call question, you've got the ability to automate the response that you have to those people who are calling in. And so this, not only does it give you the opportunity to know whether you have a missed call, it takes that knowledge a step further and basically covers for you missing the call and gives you at least the opportunity to stay with that lead and not to completely lose them.
Yeah. Yeah, this basically streamlines the ability to foster quality connections and the confidence that who I've reached out to is actually going to going to get back to me. And I think that's the biggest trap that a lot of people fall into when they are trying to grow businesses in any services based industry. I think that goes for healthcare too, which is if I call them and it goes to voicemail, will anyone ever hear it? If somebody, if I submit a form, am I ever going to get anybody to call me back? Like that kind of thing. And even with high intent, it can be difficult manually to foster those kinds of connections. And we have tools like this that make it much easier to keep the conversation moving forward, even when you're not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, as a purchaser of healthcare services, if I'm looking for something, I'm going to call them. But if I don't get any kind of response, either they don't pick up the phone or I leave a message, but they never return the call, I'm moving on to the next provider.
Right.
I'm not going to stay there, even though I have high intent. I'm going to continue to find somebody because I have that high intent that wants to communicate with me.
Right.
I think the last, one of the things that is pretty amazing with respect to what you can do with all of that call data that we talked about is pull up the keywords that are mentioned in the call. And, it's not just keyword spotting, which is basically taking the most used words within each of the conversations that you've had. You can really take it to a next level, can't you, Jason, and sit there and say, these are the keywords I want to look for.
Yeah. I mean, you get to define that for yourself based on the specifics of what you're looking for in the industry, or any particular client. The cool thing is, it's the power of AI that's able to really cleanly extract those things and then be able to take action on it by creating that reporting for you, showing you what's working, what's not.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with a couple partners. One here you can see keywords allows them to get data specific to each client. Then it allows them to. It's not just generalized like you might get from your Google Ads information, your Google Analytics information, but really the other thing is, we've got this dental provider that we have worked with where they can take those keywords and take it to the next level and hone their messaging, so that the messaging that they have in their marketing campaigns, they've used those keywords to really get it to the place that they think is going to be the most successful. And, this is a space where the PPC, cost per click, is really high. And so anything that you can get where you can move beyond just paying an additional dollar on that cost per click, where you might find some keywords that could generate results without paying as much, that's really going to drive your ROI. But the last thing that I think is worth mentioning and talking about just is you've got all of these new AI features that have come out and the capabilities that have come out in the last couple years and how you can harness them to convert more leads. And so, one of the things that I think we want to talk about is just how it relates and improves the patient experience. So, Jason, talk a little bit about what you have AI wise that might work to improve that patient experience.
Yeah. So this probably hopefully directly answers some of the questions that have come through in the chat and in the Q&A. But I can start from the simplest and go to more fancy or really fun. And maybe I'll just start with the most fun, I think, that we've come out with. This is one of our most recent products. It's called Convert Assist. What this does is it will during the phone call, during the conversation with a potential client or a patient, when that conversation is over, very quickly, within usually a minute or so, Convert Assist will generate an action plan based on the conversation. It will generate coaching for how it could go better and what you might do to improve. And it will write the email follow-up for you based on the context of that conversation. And it's not just, this is my favorite part, it's not just basing that feedback on that singular call. It's taking in the context of all the previous conversations you may have had with that customer or that patient. And so being able to know, based on what was said previously, that there's a continuation of this, and it will hone that action plan, that smart follow-up email or text message, and that coaching for you. And I will just say that as a product leader, I demoed this in front of our company when we first came out with it, and I tried to break it by being as absurd as I possibly could. And I can be really absurd, and I couldn't break it. It handled it phenomenally, even with a conversation that was really hard to follow, with a lot of back and forth and stutter over and undercut, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it just handled it completely smoothly. So that kind of power is very specific to how can we directly help you have a better experience. How can we train you to be better in these live conversations? How can we train you to help contribute to higher conversion rates after what happens on site? To what Rebecca said in the chat, it's that kind of stuff, right? That's like the coolest. And then you can go all the way into, like, you can go and look at a phone call and see how the sentiment of the call went, highlighted in green and yellow, green and red. Here's where it went well. Here's where it didn't. Here's a score of that sentiment. You can use those data points, including words that were said or not said. Like, you didn't say, "Would you like to book an appointment today?" You can capture those that did not say that, create an automation rule again around it, and it will give you a report of all those that were tagged, no appointment mentioned. And you can go right into those, and you can say, hey, this is how you can help yourself to get a higher conversion rate. We're delivering you the leads, but this is how, from a client perspective, this is how you can operationalize the good leads that are coming in.
Yeah, I think that's great. Jason, I know we're coming to a close here. There's a question in the chat about language capabilities beyond just English.
Yes.
Is there that capability at this time?
Yes. So we provide transcription in a multitude of languages, including Spanish, French, German, etc. Many of them. We have transcription in those. We have, I believe, any of the products that are supporting off of AI transcription will also work with most of those other languages.
Yeah, and we know, this is something where it's amazing technology that has allowed us to be able to understand, transcribe, not only pull the sentiment out and then move beyond that into creating conversion tools to help you turn those leads and those conversations that you're having into actual patients. And not only that, just to be able to do it within the space of knowing that the language that's happening is complex, and being able also to take that language into not just English, but other languages. And I think that's really, something that is very beneficial for the healthcare industry as we go forward. It's allowing a patient experience that you might not otherwise get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we want you to know more. Jason and I have only given just an introductory tour of everything that's possible. We certainly want you to stop by the CallRail virtual booth. There are people that you can chat with. And then also, you can give a CallRail a try. The QR code is there. We have a 14-day free trial, no credit card required. So feel free to give us a try. You can go through and understand the depths of the product that is out there. Jason, anything that you could say to wrap things up for us?
Yeah, I just want to say that some of the conversations in the chat are spot on. And Janet, the way you said this is perfect. I think you said it better than we did. That showing this kind of feedback and data can help marketing make the case to operations for implementing change. As a product leader at CallRail for 8 years, that has been the case time and time again. And I've seen that done over and over and over. And I think that what's also just important to remember is that through a CallRail HIPAA plan, you can do all of that securely, knowing that you're protecting patients' rights, which is critical, especially in the new era of AI that we're in.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is a unique era. It's a unique industry. It's a unique environment that everything is walking through. And I think it behooves everybody involved to maximize the tools they have to really work to improve patient care.
Yeah.
So, Jason, thank you for walking through this with me. I appreciate that. And everybody here, thank you for joining our session.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everybody.